We welcome men, actually, in most of what we do, with the exception of our monthly meetings. Our monthly meetings are women only. At the request of our women, actually, they really like to have a space that they can go to on their own. But we have on our website lots of information and a newsletter, and all of those things are welcome for men. We also do periodic events where we invite men to come and join us. But mainly we are a women's business networking group, and we focus not only the business side of things, but on the spiritual side of life as well, and on the entrepreneur themselves in addition to their business. What we're doing today is having 4 of our members who we felt exemplified sort of the spirit of what people at an event like this would really be wanting to see. And Kathryn is kind of our high-powered business speaker as it goes. And Kathryn's going to be talking to you about workshops. Raquel Smith is our speaker who just finished. She spoke about values. And some of her materials are up here as well. I will actually be doing a session at 7 called The Power of Intention. And that's based upon an activity that we do in New once a quarter called Intention Networking, where we look at our intentions for the year and do it in sort of a way that other people can help you to contribute to the realization of those intentions. It's something that we just started about 6 months ago. 6 months ago. It's been wildly popular. And just among people are kind of rolling into our group to do this activity. We're actually getting requests to run it for other organizations. It's a really exciting experience, so I invite you to hang around after Kathryn to experience that. It's really very, very powerful. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to have Christiane Holbrook, who runs a coaching company called Legacy in Action, and she'll be talking about how to leave a lasting legacy with your small business. So I invite you to join us throughout the rest of the evening. Kathryn Ellis, is it RSCP?
Yeah.
RSCP is known as Agape's workshop queen for the many successful workshops she leads. She has taught hundreds of workshops all over the country. She currently teaches in 7 cities, has had many articles published, and recently signed a book deal with Marlowe Publishing, which I think you said was your last Intention Networking.
That's right.
Kathryn has a background promoting experts in various fields. Her extensive knowledge has already catapulted many individual practitioners and healers into workshop success. All right.
Thank you, Nikki.
And by the way, I love that.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. All right, so I have a question for you straight off. How many of you came here and heard about this workshop from the program guide or just from the Conscious Life Expo? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you heard it from an email from me? How many of you heard of it from an email to the practitioner core or Agape? Anybody? So pretty much everybody found out. That was an example of how to start teaching better workshops or more successful workshops. One thing that I do, and I'm going to get way more into this, is I always check how did people find out about me. And you have to do that to sign on to my website, to buy anything, to get into any of my workshops. Nobody can get in without answering the question, how did you hear about me? Because I want to track how people are hearing about me. And it's very important to do that. And now to get right into this, what is your idea of a successful workshop? And we're just all going to share here. We're a small group. So just chime in.
Learn something new.
You learn something new.
If I really enjoy it, it's worth it in itself. I really would.
Okay,
like
yes.
A couple of things.
What is your name?
Tommy.
That's great. Cool. What's your real name?
Thomasina.
Thomasina, I was wondering. Cool. That's a great name for a girl. Okay, so your definition is if you learn something new.
Primarily.
Primarily. Okay, that's good. Yes, and say your name.
My name is Trisha.
Trisha.
If I can take action on what I learn, if it sticks with me and I can see it, I really am motivated to be able to implement it.
Okay, so for both of you, kind of these tie in together, transformational to some degree in your life. What else? Anybody? Yes, and say your name.
My name is Joy.
Joy.
If the workshop is just kind of fun, too. And not
If it's
just all
fun.
work,
Okay. Yes. Bless you. And that was my criteria. I had, before I started teaching workshops, I used to take a lot of them. And there's a saying that at some point you quit being the student and you become the teacher. And all of a sudden, as I started teaching, there are very few workshops I want to go to anymore. Like, I became the teacher instead of the student. But I looked back on which ones did I really like, which ones I didn't. And a big one was it fun? You know, I don't want to hear somebody talking for like 3 hours. It gets boring and you're like, people are falling asleep. So that's good. Who else had a hand up? Yes, and say your name.
My name is Jerry.
Jerry.
I think if I meet some good people.
Yeah, that was a big one for me too. I wanted to interact and meet some people. And every workshop, there's a lot of interaction. Everybody knows everybody by the end of it. So yeah, bless you. Good one. Yes.
Well, I haven't actually ever been to a workshop.
And say your name.
Michael. Sorry.
Michael. That's okay.
Yes. But the one thing I would look for definitely is to walk away being inspired.
Walk away being inspired. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? How many of you aspire to teach workshops? Good. Okay. How many of you are currently teaching? Okay. I have 4 criteria. Everything that everybody said fell into one category or another. And there are additional ones. And I am also on the workshop committee of Agape, so that we approve any workshop that's taught at Agape. And we give everybody who we approve criteria for success. And there are 4 things. Number 1 is that people change. It's transformational for people. They get something out of it. They're different. And if you do that to one person, if one person walks away and their life is different, to me, you succeeded. Number 2 is that you attract a good crowd. By that measure, I feel successful right now because most of the chairs are filled, right? I get over 100 people at a lot of my workshops. And it grew. The first time I ever taught one, I was about 30. And so for the workshop committee and for me personally, I feel like having some crowds there. Because if you're teaching a workshop, you're not really doing a one-on-one session, right? You're trying to reach more people at once. So one of the criteria for me of success is a nice crowd. And it keeps growing as you go. Number 3, it is lucrative. I don't believe you need to teach this for free. You're valuable. Even if you don't know it yet, you know things that nobody else knows. And when you're following your calling, you ought to be able to make a living off of it. And so if you've ever been to T. Harv Ecker's workshops, he teaches on money. He's making thousands and thousands of dollars every time he teaches. And I think we all can be doing that. I have done it very successfully. And so that is a criteria for me, is it's lucrative. Because wouldn't it be nice not to have to do anything else but make money doing what you love, teaching workshops and doing other things. So that's a big one. And then there's one other criteria, and let me think what that is. So the criteria so far are that it's people, it's transformational, that it's lucrative, it draws a big crowd, and I forget, this is sad, but I really can't remember the other.
Memory?
Huh? Yeah, you memorize it so you don't screw up like this. Yeah, if I think of it, I'll tell you. Huh?
It'll come to you.
It'll come to me, I hope. But we have a list that we send people so that by that measure, they know they're successful. Oh, the other one is the evaluations. At the end, we require at Agape that everybody get evaluations filled out by their attendees. I do it at every one of my workshops, no matter where I'm teaching, because I want to know, did you like it? What could I have done better? And if you get mostly high marks on your evaluations, 1 or 2 sour grapes is okay, because there's always a few people who are never satisfied. But if you're getting high marks altogether, that's the other criteria. So those are the 4. Thank God I remembered it. So that's I feel like if I'm gonna talk to you about teaching successful workshops, we need to be on the same page about what is successful. Now there are 2 parts to teaching them after that. One is your inner work, which you have to do first, and the other is your outer work. Inner work comes first because if you're scared to death to get up in front of 5 people, you got some work to do. If you think, who am I to teach this? What do I know? You got some work to do, right? If you haven't done the interconnecting of the people you want to come to your workshop, you got some work to do. So the inner work, I feel, has to come first. Number 1 is throwing off your ego. Surprisingly enough, your ego can look like, well, who am I to teach a workshop? I'm not a speaker. How do I speak in front of a bunch of people? Like that. And you have to get over that, because if you're being called to teach something, you're being I feel, by a higher power. And you have to follow that. And if your ego's getting in the way, saying, who am I to do it? You need to get over yourself. No matter where you are on the scale of consciousness, there are many, many people below you. Because most people don't do any of this kind of work that we're doing to be here right now, right? And so that you're definitely have some people who need to hear from you, no matter who you think you are. And that's, I find, a huge hurdle. I was so surprised when I started with other people, because that was the biggest thing, is people really were unsure of themselves and insecure. So you need to throw off your ego in that regard. You need to throw it off and keep going with it, because at first, that didn't sound good. Well, let's bless them, whoever that is. I have a 3-year-old, and when we hear something like that, we go running, and usually something's been tossed over. So your inner work involves getting over yourself, right? Getting over your ego. It also involves getting in touch with what am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to do it. No matter what personality type you are. You may be introverted, you may be extroverted, quiet, which I tend to be both introverted and quiet, or a real talker. And no matter who you are, it doesn't matter. You can teach really great workshops. I'm introverted and quiet, and I refuse to call myself a speaker because it's alarming to me to think of that. But still, you know, I can speak to a lot of people now, like to probably a few thousand at this point at a time. And I kind of grew into it, and I just kind of get out of my way. What I tell myself is I'm a conveyor of information. I'm there to help raise people up, and that's all. You know, they're not judging me, and I can't have my ego in the way because I need to do this. So you need to do that inner work too, to open up, what am I supposed to do? I'm going to do what I need to do and not worry about it, and know that I'm meant to be doing this. That's the inner work. The other inner work is to get guidance on specifically what do my workshops look like, and then also to send out what I call a call for souls. That is inner marketing, and it's at least as important as outer marketing. My spiritual center is about 20 years old, and it's grown to 10,000 members, and they are the worst marketers in the world. They never got it together marketing-wise at all. Bad ads, no PR. They don't even have anybody to deal with marketing, and yet they've grown so big. And it's because from the very beginning, they were sending out this call for souls in prayer and meditation, and it really worked. And so I've seen people before do only inner marketing and send out this call for souls and have 50 people show up at the door not knowing why they're there. They just had that call. And so you really need to do your inner work first. And your outer work is minimal. And it's not to ignore the outer work, because I'm going to get to that next. But that's very important. It's what I did from the beginning, and it went well from the very beginning before I had my act together at all. And so if you're shy about this, just do it gradually. There's no rush. You can speak to 5 people at first, then 10, then you can speak to 100, then to a few thousand, then you can be on public access television, then you can be on a local channel, then you can be on Oprah, you know? So you don't have to do it all at once. You can take little steps to acclimate yourself, which is good, because I would have been terrified if you'd thrown me in immediately into a big crowd staring at me. I'm sure I would have fainted on the spot. Any questions at this point? Okay. Does anybody know any ideas for free marketing? Okay. Throw one out. Internet.
Somebody does an article about you in the newspaper.
PR. That's called PR. Very good. What else? Huh?
Bookstores, spreading flyers.
Spreading flyers. This is what my teenage boys do for me. They plaster the town with flyers. They know all the places that have good bulletin boards and all that. What else?
Guest speaking.
Guest speaking, yes. And I have a woman who teaches successfully at Agape who did just that. She would go and she'd speak somewhere and bring her flyers for her event. You know, like I brought mine for my event on Monday night. Critique this flyer in a little bit. But yes, absolutely. One of the most successful things I've ever seen is that when people see you and they see your being and they hear you talk, they are much more likely to attend your event. And so you can call people, like organizations in your field, and say, can I come do a 5-minute pitch? You'd be surprised at how often they say yes. And so that's brilliant. Thank you. Who else? Other things you can do for free to promote your workshop. talking about yourself. That's networking, and that's what this group, the new group, is all about. And it's something I never did consciously. I was shy, never told my friends what I did, never told anybody who met me, and they were always shocked to find it. But since I have been networking, this is what I did. I got an agent through networking, through a connection. I just had 9 publishers interested in my book, had a bidding war, signed with the dream publisher, have been on the media about 2-3 times a month now, and God knows what else. Things just keep happening, only because I finally figured out about networking. And I did find out networking doesn't mean pushing yourself down people's throat. And being such a salesperson, you're not communing and interacting. But a lot of people probably need to know about what you do. So those of us who are doing this amazing work need to not be so shy. That's a lesson I learned. So thank you for saying that. You guys don't have to be shy about it.
How did you get comfortable with it? I know when I try to network, I start stuttering.
New is really good for that. I had never been, and here are the cards if you guys want to take one before you leave. It's only for women. There's also an organization for women and men that my husband has gone to that we can tell you about. But it's great because they tell you, don't go around forcing yourself down people's throats. Don't be just selling yourself. Just get to know people. That's networking. But all it requires is to be shy about saying what you do, which is I used to never tell anybody. Now we send a Christmas card every year with a paragraph on each member of my family, and I always mention what I do and put my website, because you never know. But the way to not be shy is to make sure you're not pushing it down people's throat. Being real salesy doesn't work, because that kind of energy pushes people away. Have you noticed that? It turns you off, but you don't have to be that. If you're personable and just want to get to know them, casually mention what you do, many times people will be vastly interested, and before you know it, they're buying something from you or want to get your flyer, your card. And so if it's a genuine communication, just don't be shy, because if you're doing this, you are led to do it, and you need to let people know. Think of it that way, that it's a service, and you're just communing with different people. So yeah, does that make sense to you? And my husband's like, he's so shy and just can't even deal with being salesy. And he went to the men's version of New, or the co-ed version of New, and was so happy about it, because it really is just a communing of people, ultimately. And you have permission, certainly, at a networking event to say what you do, because that is part of it. And you even get to get good at making a 90-second pitch or 20-second pitch of your service, which to me was absolutely terrifying, because I never sold myself, really. But then you get good at that, and I think it's a good thing to know how to do it. You might need to do a soundbite one day. So it's just working on yourself and your attitude about it. You have to start thinking it is necessary, and I'm not going to turn people off. Because if you're already shy about it, doubtful. You're not going to suddenly become a Joe Sales, in your face kind of thing. So I think you probably don't even need to worry about it. And I do find that most marketing on the outer can be for free. The big thing since I wrote this, this is what I do. I do singles events and calling forth soulmates, mending broken hearts. But because I had been so successful, 2 years ago I was asked to teach this workshop. I said, I'm only doing it once. So they recorded it, and we made a booklet, and we sell it on Amazon, and it's always selling out. And there's some things that have happened since this that I've learned. And what's happened the most is the internet and e-zines. So that I really, I've gotten a lot more ways to market yourself for free. There's a bunch here. The newest one is the internet, and e-zines have come of age since I taught that course. I do a twice monthly e-zine now. And it's a great way to build subscribers, which is what you want to do. Get email addresses with people's permission, because they need to opt in, and do giveaways to get them to put their card in your, like in your fishbowl. But the internet, and then there are other internet ways too. One of them is Craigslist. Does anybody know Craigslist? Brilliant, highly responsive. People really will respond to it a lot. And Craigslist, anybody on MySpace, Friendster, or Tribe? Does anybody know what that is? Okay. If you don't, check it out. It's on the internet. They're kind of like networking sites, really. Mostly for friends, maybe. But I'm on every one of those. And when I have And I've joined certain groups that would be very targeted for me. For example, Broken Hearts Club on Tribe. When I teach releasing a person, which is for people with mending hearts, of course I post it to that group because there they are. You can do it for different cities you're in, and it's highly, highly effective, and it's free. So that's free. Sending out email lists, collecting an email list is really good. I spend a small amount of money to do an occasional snail mail for people who don't have email, and just so people get something in the mail every now and then, see my face again. Because part of it is repeating yourself over and over till you're branded. People know you. Yes?
You mentioned Craigslist, MySpace, Tribe, and one other.
Friendster. Friendster.com. Okay. And I've had several couples hook up and get married on Friendster. So that's really powerful. Yes?
There's another one that I've used. It's called LinkedIn.
Really?
Yeah,
LinkedIn?
It's a little bit more professional than all of those.
Oh, okay. Then that's good for many of us. Yeah, I don't do professional workshops. Mine are personal.
Yeah, might not be,
but I love to recommend that to people. Right. Okay. So LinkedIn.com.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good piece of information.
There's also another one called Rise.com, R-Y-Z-E.
R-Y-Z-E.
Yes.
Cool. There's also EventB.com. And so it takes about 2 seconds. You compose a listing, you know, with the date, the name of the workshop, which should be catchy. Names are important. Bullet points. People don't read that much, but do bullet points instead of big paragraphs. And then the price, and maybe a couple testimonials from people who really liked your work. Keep copying it and pasting it on all these sites. Keep doing it. It takes 30 minutes. You've just reached a whole lot of people. Who knows what the very best marketing is? Mouth, right. And I have several books on it. And I was doing it before I knew anything about it. Just by accident. I'm in a community, and the word gets around. So in my community of 10,000 people, everybody knows who I am. My events are kind of famous for being fun and good and non-threatening. In the singles world, you can get real desperate energy, and mine don't have those. And so the word gets around, like this is a cool place to go if you're single. Word of mouth, you can really help along being perfect track of who is in your workshop. Get everything you can, but especially email because it's free. Also get addresses and phone numbers in case you need it. I never use them except if I've called somebody if like person A wanted to hook up with person B. I call person B and say, well, this person liked you. And I don't like doing that, but every now and then I will. So you don't want to violate people by faxing them or calling them because that's too much marketing. But email's the best. And your best repeat business, the way to build a following, which is really helpful to get published eventually. All the publishers loved me because I have a following. I have people who will go out and buy my book the minute it comes out simply because they like my work and they recommend it freely. And so you need to find out who your customers are and keep track. They are worth gold. And does anybody watch or has watched The Apprentice? My husband and I, that's like our gear. And they had two tasks. Both were perfect proof of this targeted marketing. Number one is they were doing a wedding thing. And the lady who was doing the wedding thing actually came to one of my workshops. I had people from The Apprentice in my workshops. And the way the team that won bought a list from the knot.com, which is a big old wedding website, and sent it out that we're having this bridal show. And they had a line out the door around the block of prospective brides coming to look at their stuff. The other people had nothing. That was targeted marketing that was really, really good. And another task that really worked out well is they had each team had an artist that did a t-shirt with their art. Well, one team kind of floundered and did like diamonds on them. The other team got the artist list that artist had been keeping of all their followers and emailed them that this artist, the t-shirt was happening. And they're the ones who won because they had huge crowds again. And so targeting, you're creating your target market by collecting names. Most of you will have a better time of this than me. My work is successful, and so all my people keep getting married off. And so my market keeps, kind of being self-limiting because I am successful. But that's okay, because luckily then they go tell their friend. They become one of my best examples. We just got married. We met at this workshop called Manifest Your Soulmate. What? Who was that? me. So that's how I get a lot of word of mouth, just out of satisfied customers. If you have an unhappy customer, that can be really bad word of mouth. We don't want to do that, and so I bend over backwards. I give people refunds, send them a free CD, send them free stuff, apologize astutely, take all the blame, because one negative customer supposedly can do more damage than like 100 happy, satisfied customers. So word of mouth is really important. It's free. So anything you can do. I help myself along by having promotional items because it's said that people probably have to hear about you 3-4 times before they'll come to your stuff. Many people have heard about my workshops for years before they actually will come. So I have free pins, free magnets. If you come by my booth, it's right next to registration. You can see my setup. But I have free magnets people put on their refrigerator with a positive affirmation, which is love will find you, or you get love, and my web address. So I get great web traffic. Somebody mentioned PR. Does anybody know the difference between PR and advertising?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me.
PR is mostly, well, PR is essentially advertising, free advertising, which you will get
exactly
through, I don't know, radio station interview or
right.
article. In
the big difference between PR and advertising is PR is free. You don't pay a dime for it, and it's 10 times more valuable than paid advertising. Advertising is paid, and advertising paid, when you look through something and it has ads, don't you tend to skip the ads? Okay? But if you've got your name and your business and a story or a tip from you in the editorial, it gives you credibility, people will read it more, and so it's free too, so it's a good situation.
One of those things they do, they see them on the ads, it looks like a newspaper article. Somebody telling them how good the product is. It's got advertisement.
Yeah, it's called, exactly. What he's talking about is an advertorial. And that's one of those tricky things. It looks like editorial, it looks like a story, but it's really an ad. And studies have found that those do very well.
Because it looks like it's
because, yeah, you fool people.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to advertise, and I'm going to tell you a couple things about paying for and when it's worth it, then advertorial is a better way to go, or get better at doing an ad. But the way you get PR, does anybody want to chime in? Anybody?
Local.
Yeah, you need to start creating a media list. Start with whatever you read, because you're probably your target market, right? So I read Whole Life Times, Awareness Magazine. I didn't need any national publicity for a long time because I was only teaching in one city at a time and I had no products. Once you get products, which you do when your workshops get so big you can't be everywhere, so you can replicate yourself and sell that, then you can go national because people can get you from anywhere. But what you do is you start accruing a list of editors, emails for editors, phone numbers for editors, for all the places you're going to teach locally. And you start, the easiest way to start doing it is get in on their calendar. And so I email probably 15 to 20 people every time I teach. And you'd be surprised when they run it. Send them a photo, they'll run the photo. And you're in their little community calendar. That's free. And you get a lot of people off of that. Mine run in the singles place. Well, nobody's going to read it but the singles. So it's very targeted. The other thing, and the thing I've started doing more, especially on a national level, now that I have a book coming out, is you get hold of an editor, a features editor, and you pitch him a story. Well, you know, I'm the only person, or the first person to really teach about spiritually dating. Would you guys want to do a feature on me? Or are you working on a story where I could fit in? I can give you some tips. And so I've started doing that a lot. I was just in the LA Times the other day, and been in like Cosmopolitan 17, talking about dating. So you start finding magazines that cover your field, whatever it is. If you're an entrepreneur, you know, entrepreneur. Whatever it is, you start really listing all of the publications down your field, get to know the editors, start writing down names of people who about your field and get a list. You can email them regularly with press releases, and you also can call them. And sometimes you need to call, because if you don't, not to be bugging them, but you call them just to be of service. You need to call with that attitude. Ask them first, are you busy? Because you don't want to bug them. And then say, can I help you on anything you're doing? This is the Teaching Successful Workshops book. Somebody this is actually worth it just for the samples of stuff. But this is a sample of a calendar listing that I send out, a little fax that I used to send. Now I send more email. Though people like LA Weekly, the only way you can get in there is still the fax. You know, they're old-fashioned that way, or they get too many. And you know, and this is a page right here on how to submit to the press. What you do as you get covered, you save every single bit of it. Radio show, get a recording, and you build a press kit with your clips, your PR releases, which you need to start having, your press releases, and then on your website, eventually you'll all build a press room. You will have audio clips. People can hear you on different shows. You'll have clips of what you've written, because you can also call the editors and say, I would love to write an article on so-and-so. And I did that a lot, and I've had about like probably 20 articles published in various magazines. It helped me to get a book deal, because they could see that I can write, and I can make a deadline, because you're not going to be in a magazine if you can't meet the deadline. Does that make sense? Yes?
Would you just call them, or would you have to do a formal pitch by,
Formal pitches don't work.
Okay.
You need to have one as a backup, okay. And all of formal pitches is like a one-page synopsis of what you want to write about with bullet points. Don't make it hard on them. They don't have a lot of time. They're going to scan it. They're not going to read it. So everything's short to the media, but call first. My rule of thumb is call first, follow it with email or fax or whatever they want. They might want your press kit or your clips, whatever they want, and then call to follow up. There's nothing to substitute for human contact, which is what we were talking about with networking, right? So you have to do personal FaceTime. I used to be a publicist, so I had a head start. I got in a whole lot of other people, all kinds of press beforehand. And so that really helped me. But yeah, definitely call. And it doesn't, don't get too hung up on having a formal like pitch or query letter. You can read any book about PR and find out what that is, but as long as you give them something that kind of encapsulates what the article's on, that's enough. I never had any problem. And as I got to know different editors, they don't care. They don't want to see it. They're like, okay, give me an article on this, 1,200 words, thanks. You know, that's it. They start knowing you, and then you get published over and over. So it's not hard to do. Do you know why? Because magazines have no budget. If they can get you, and they don't have to pay you, and you're going to write an article, which is also good for you, then hey, you know, they're going to do it, especially if you have something new to say. And it does need to be something new. Okay? So that is free. It's highly effective. Any questions about PR? It's a broad subject, and I'm just going to give you the highlights here. If you're really serious about it, you might want to consider getting this, and they have a few here. I only have like 8 left. People have already started buying them, because usually you can only get it on Amazon, and they're always out of them. But they have them at the bookstore downstairs too. And it's like got 2 CDs and a booklet, and it takes you through this. Everybody who got this booklet at Agape, those are the ones who are highly successful now teaching workshops. So it seems to do well, and I'm pleased, because I don't want to be the only one doing this. We all have so much work to do on this planet. There's so much. We need to get smart about getting ourselves out there and helping people to change. So I want all of us to do just as well.
How much are those?
They're $35.
If you give me one for nothing, I'll tell everybody how good you are.
Well, the problem is with that is that first off, people seem to know because it keeps selling out. And secondly, I only have so many here. Thirdly, this is not my thing. I'm only doing this because I want to help people, but my real calling is to hook everybody up with their soulmate. I don't even advertise about it, you know, so, but it's a lot of information, and it's the only way to really tap my brain, because I'm not going to go around mentoring people. I don't have time. So anyway, the other thing is you need to set an intention, okay? It's very powerful to do that, to write down just what you want out of your workshop, what your long-term vision. I found my intention for like 10 years ago, and it was so weird because I was doing what I put and more. You know, every workshop, over 100 people, lines out the door, everybody leaves happy, you know, lots of media coverage, feeling really good, and getting all these stories about how lives were changed. And you know, big money, checks all the time. You know, big stacks of check, where my biggest problem is keeping track of them all. So you know, set an intention. Nikki is after me, and she's going to be talking more about that. So you might want to stay, because new is scary. I have always set intentions. They've been powerful, but with new, new weird thing happening where I better be careful of what I set as my intention, because within about 30 days, every intention I ever set with new happened. Some before I was ready, or I'm still kind of reeling in shock at how fast, but set an intention, write it down. Don't have to look at it again for a while, but there's something, and studies have proven, very powerful about writing it down and speaking it in front of a group. I think that must be the added component, because that's what we do in new. Now I want to get to the workshop itself. We had talked about a few things that people said made an enjoyable workshop. I have a rule, and that is that nobody can sit for longer than 45 minutes at a time. After that, people are yawning, they're spacing out, so everybody stand up. I want you to stretch really good. Stretch every way. Get in front of a partner and exchange names and hug or namaste. Don't like to hug. Okay. Did you exchange names and hug? Okay, now what I want you to do is each stay standing up. We got to get our energy going. No sitting right now. Okay, what I want you to do with your partner is exchange. Each of you say, what was the most enjoyable workshop you ever attended and why? Okay, you each get about a minute, so don't be the conversation hog here. What was the most enjoyable workshop I ever attended and why? So go ahead and share with each other.
Well, I just did a workshop last week.
Okay, time for the other person to talk if they didn't already. Okay, you need to start wrapping it up. Hug your partner and then you can sit down. Start wrapping it up and hug your partner and then you can sit down. All right, so hug your partner and sit down. Why was it enjoyable? Just chime in.
Fun.
Fun? What made it fun?
The music.
The music. Woo, that sounds good. So we all should use music, which I do. I have an entire iPod list of different things for my workshops. What else?
Personal stories.
Personal, yes, that's good. Activities, which I think is important, not to sit there, and lecture. It's boring. No matter how fascinating the person is, studies have shown nobody, no matter if they're the most fascinating person on the planet, can sit and listen to anybody else for more than 45 minutes, period. And so, yes, you need to have some activities, break it up, have some fun. What else?
Meeting new people.
Meeting new people. Interactive exercises is what this translates into in a workshop. Yes, and I love, in my workshops, everybody's met and chatted. And wasn't that fun just to talk to somebody? Yeah, and so I do a lot of that, so by the time everybody leaves, they all know each other. They hang around for like an hour, 2 hours later, after the workshop, still, hanging out and talking, or they all go out in a group to a restaurant. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's very important, just having a connection. What else, anybody?
I felt respected and appreciated by the speaker.
Yes, they heard you. A connection. And any good has another level going on. And I do this too. I usually pray before a workshop, and I kind of open myself and say, I am a channel. And sometimes things come out of my mouth that I never said before and will never say again, and somebody pulled it out of me. They needed to hear it. So you can prepare ahead of time on the inner to be connected with people and say what they need to hear. You've got a level you're not even aware of interaction with your audience, so they pull out what they need from you, even if you said it before. So yes, definitely. Anybody else?
Ironically, the other one that I went to was I asked a guy who was a speaker 3 questions because I'm a nutritionist, and he couldn't answer any of them, and I realised I knew more than he did.
So it was good because I have done the same thing. I went to such a horrible workshop and I said, my God, you know, if this person can do this, certainly I can. And they just taught me all kinds of things about doing a bad workshop that I want to do. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Sometimes that can be a teacher. You never know. Yeah, there you go. So you need to be out there doing this, Michael. Yes. Now, who else? Anybody? Okay. So yes, I think that everybody has different things they do, and it's amazing to me. Like, do you know who Thich Nhat Hanh is? Mystical teacher. He sits there and drones on, and people are friggin' meditating on the floor, but it works for him. So I think that whatever your personality is, whatever your vibe is, there will be the perfect place for you, and it may look like nothing else. My workshops, everybody shows up with a blanket and a pillow, which is strange, but I put everybody on the floor and do a guided meditation, and it works for me. You may do something nobody ever did, but it'll work for you if you're meant to do it, and you'll get lines out the door. So one other thing I want to say, how many of you can read this flyer, the headline? Back row, can you read it? This is a good flyer, and I'm not perfect at it, but if you are in a big corporation doing advertising, nobody does flyers. They buy ads in Newsweek, full-page ads. They don't mess with flyers. If you look at their ads, the visual or the headline will usually take 1/3 to 3/4 of the ad. And then they have just a tiny little space for any wording. That's how important it is to get your attention. We're bombarded by marketing. So I have a little heart visual. Love, right? So that's a quick read. Hearts are on everything because it's a quick read. Love. And use a catchy, this is not the most catchy thing, but it has singles and connection, and that tends to work. My picture works. One time my partner and I both had our pictures really big, and the whole workshop was guys. So, you know, so a visual, your picture carries a vibe. It carries the vibration of you. And so I think it's very important to have a picture of yourself, have a bio, have a testimonial with somebody's name, whole name, and who they are, which is better than initials. But so in this booklet, you know, I go into great detail about what you need on a flyer and why you need it. You need to make it real easy for people. Like, here's another one of my flyers. I got love, huge. How many, can you read love in the back row? Yeah, see, you need this, and this is the most common thing. You know how I told you I ask everybody, how did you hear the workshop? Do you know what the answer is? The flyer just leapt off the wall at me. Hello. And I never tell them, well, it's because I really know how to do a flyer, you know. But you need to make your headline really big and really stand out compared to anybody else. So getting your flyers is important. There are steps in here. It breaks down exactly how to do it. And you can look around. Look at what the big companies that pay millions for an ad, what are they doing? Design-wise, space-wise, message-wise, and do that. There's one more thing that I think is increasingly important, and that's branding. My own branding, honestly, the blankets and the pillows have become part of the branding because everybody knows if they see a crowd of people out the door and everybody has a blanket and pillow, oh, they're going to Kathryn Alice's workshop. Like, you know, I'm famous, and I didn't even realize that. I only wear white. And I didn't do it for branding, but it's become my brand. I'm the lady in white. I did it for other reasons, kind of more spiritual reasons. It became part of my branding. My branding becomes my picture, my name, and things that always look the same. If you go look at my booth, it's kind of angelic. I tend to have angels and lights, you know, and real girly hearts, pink pins, you know. You can come by and get a free pin and a magnet, but they're pink, and the guys love them. I don't know why. But whatever you do, start thinking about branding. These pins, it was like $89 for 500. And do you know how much business this is going to bring? site. After this expo, I will have thousands and thousands of hits, like in just a couple days. So start figuring out, what is my image? We have a person in new, PK, Odell. She does feng shui. Whatever she wears, it always has an Asian flair, you know? And all of her stuff looks like feng shui and looks Asian. She's found her target, which is the home shows. Hello, you know? And she's doing very well, but she's good at her branding. And that's not to say you have to be fake. There's a really good book, if you email me, I'll tell you, on branding, that takes you through the steps from the inside out, so that you're not creating an image, you're creating from you. Who am I? You're getting very clear and you're projecting it into the world. So branding is kind of a new buzzword, and it's very valuable in our field. So, any last questions before we end? Yes?
You mentioned an organization, but I didn't recognize it was.
New?
No, the other one.
Agape. This is where I'm from. These are my people. I am based. This is Agape. In fact, the guy speaking tonight, the head of our, it's my spiritual center that I told you that's 10,000 members in 20 years from nothing. And it's very lovely. It's in Culver City. And that's where I'm from.
Oh, okay.
It's where I got my start. And
Is that an abbreviation for something? Or?
Agape is the Greek word for unconditional love. The Greeks have words for different love, and so that's what it means. So yes, agape. Yes?
Can you explain a little bit about your seminars and your workshops with singles and all that?
Well, I basically teach 3 workshops. One is to help people recover from a divorce or heartbreak, called Releasing a Person. One is to call forth your soulmate, in which we have a lot of fun and do all these heart-opening, fun, interactive exercises and that's why you need the blanket and pillow. I talk, but there's a lot of interaction going on. It's like a slumber party at one point. And then the other one is called Spiritually Dating. And it helps people with the process of getting to know your soulmate. Even if you don't date anybody else, you still have to date them till you get married. And so how to date in a more conscious way without it being crazy. So that's basically what I do. My book that's coming out covers all those areas. And it's needed. The dating and singles world out there is scary and desperate. My stuff is not. I have a different philosophy, and it's everybody gets love. You can't miss your soulmate even if you stay home. You know, you have faith that you do. And I also just create a really lovely vibe. If you're in faith that you have your soulmate, you don't have to be desperate or have an agenda or anything else. So thank you for asking.
You invited to our wedding.
I could go to a wedding and perform a wedding every weekend. And I don't tell people I do weddings anymore because of that. But I love weddings. And everybody quotes me. One of my sayings is, every pot. I've heard that in many, many wedding vows. Know that they kept that until they met their lid. This is my event on Monday night, if you're single, and we're going to have a great time. A ton of people are already signed up. And this is this booklet, and then this is on for sale here and then down at the bookstore. And Making Money as a Practitioner. I did this one because I never saw one. Nobody told me how to have a successful private practice where I made money. And I had to figure it out myself. And now I'm helping other people to be able to build their practice. So they're not cheap. They're $35 each, but they have like 2 CDs and a whole booklet that leads you through how to do it. And they work. So it'll pay for itself your first workshop, you know. So that's it. Thank you very much. You've been lovely.